All right, we're testing out the new mic here. I'm too short for this car. Just picking up my wife's SUV from the shop to have the air conditioning fixed, but they couldn't get it fixed, and it needs like a part that's on international back order, which is exciting. And they said it could be like up to like 12 months to get the part, which is absolutely ridiculous. Not their fault, obviously. It's independent shop. They're saying they're pretty sure they heard BMW's having some issues with these air conditioning units, so they're probably out of stock everywhere because everyone's running into this. So, yay. But yeah, this is one of the other vehicles. This is our X5. Sort of, it's a weird in between. It's not like the M competition, but it's like a X5 M 550i. So has the V8 twin turbo, which is fun. It's a little quieter than the AMG, but it moves. I like fast cars, so yeah, it'll be interesting to get. I want to film out of the TT. My TTRS is my fun car, so it needs. I got to do a little bit more to it. It needs. I just scheduled the oil change at the shop I was at because it's well overdue for that. It needs to be retuned because it's absolutely in shambles. Like the car drives, but like I think it's permanently in limp mode right now. So like whatever, I can get up to speed and stuff, but I don't think I can really go over 4,000 RPM. So if I'm not driving stupid, it's fine. But the whole point of having the car was so that it was fun to drive. So anyway, I will try to make sure that I get some filming out of that when that car is all ready to drive. But usually the AMG is the car that I take around. But I got to do the car pickup and drop off stuff when the cars need work. So that's what I'm doing today. So just heading into the office now. This morning, kind of got through CrossFit, so brutal again. It's going to take forever for me to get comfortable with it. That's okay. And then after CrossFit, I recorded a podcast, which was awesome. I'm going to spend the rest of my conversation today talking about this because I guess I didn't really know what to expect. I enjoy doing the podcast interviews where I'm getting software developers on and talking about their career journeys and other things that they like to focus on. So, I always enjoy it, but I didn't know what to expect for this one. And I was completely, I guess, like, I don't want to say blown away in the sense that like I had low expectations or something. That's not my intention, but I felt like I left that conversation learning way more than I anticipated, which is great. So I assume if you're watching this channel that you don't mind listening to me talk, because that's what I'm doing. So if you don't mind that, my podcasts go up on my primary channel, like on DevLeader YouTube. There's a podcast playlist there. It is on Spotify as well, and like Apple Music, and literally wherever there's podcasts hosted. So if you want to check that out and have it for your drive or wherever you're listening to this, if you want to listen to those podcasts, it's not just me rambling, it's other people. And I've had good feedback on them. I think the folks that come on really enjoy it. That's been the feedback. Maybe they're lying to me. I don't know, but I always enjoy them. So this morning was super cool because when I have people schedule some time with me, I have a little section. I don't do like intro calls because I just simply don't have time for it. And I'm not saying that like I'm better than other people. Like I can't make time for it. I just mean that I'm doing a lot of things, and I don't think that we need an intro call to have a good conversation. And I understand if people are uncomfortable because they don't know me yet. That's totally fine, but I honestly feel like we can asynchronously sort things out, and it's been working very well. So I don't like the intro calls before getting on the podcast, because the couple of times I've done it, if we schedule like 15 to 30 minutes, the conversations go like an hour to an hour and a half, and we might as well have just recorded the podcast, because the podcast itself is entirely conversational. My mouth is very dry, I'm dying. So I just stopped doing that. So in the form, when people register to schedule a time, I ask them like, hey, like, let me know the different things you want to focus on, because it's just a conversation, but I'd like some direction, and I want to make sure the people that come on have an opportunity to talk about the things that they're passionate about. And especially if people have like books or courses or other things that they're launching, or they're selling and promoting, like, I want to give them that opportunity to be able to talk about it. I don't have like, maybe one day when you're watching this, the numbers are different. I don't have like 1 million followers or anything, so it's a modest channel, and I just feel like any exposure for people is helpful, right? So like, that's the least I could do, is try to offer that. So I'm rambling a lot, but that's the whole point of these, right? In the notes, the person had left. One of the last things I mentioned was like, basically taking skills and experiences from other careers into software engineering. And she had said actress. And I was thinking about this. So her handle on social media is Rita Codes. And I believe her last name is Iglesias. So Rita Iglesias was the person that I interviewed this morning. And I know her from Instagram. And this is just going to be like my bias for my Instagram feed. I noticed that on Instagram there is a lot more, I guess, like more front-end developer focus. And again, I'm saying that's my bias for my feed. I'm not saying statistically that's how it is, but that's what I notice. The posts are a lot more generally like aesthetic, creative. Like, it's not just like like a system design diagram and a little caption. It's like, I gotta move over here. It's usually like people are making like skits, or they're doing something aesthetic, like showing off their desk and stuff. So just a kind of like a different, I'm gonna use the word vibe, different vibe. That's what the kids are saying. So it's a different vibe on the gram. And so I know Rita from on Instagram, and she has really good like content, and there's like sketches and skits. And I realized, like, duh, she like her background is she was an actress. She had a theater company, she told me, for 8 years. So it totally makes sense now. And she wanted to be able to kind of talk about this. Sorry, I'm just double checking this is taking me on the right highway. And in my head, I was like, obviously, like, happy to talk about different career experiences going into software development, because I think that's super important. But in my head, I was like, okay, I wonder if the direction we're going to take on that is like the actress part is from her content creation, like if that's what her focus is going to be, which is fine. But that's what was going through my head, is like, it's going to seem very relevant when she's talking about how she shares software engineering information. So I was like, cool, like that's what's up here. And we start going through her experience, and she's telling me about this theater company that she had, which I didn't know. So super cool. She said she did that for 8 years, like basically every week. She described it like, in her words, it's like SNL, so Saturday Night Live, without money. And I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. But, being able to put on a performance, that's extremely bright, for people that's like an hour to an hour and a half long every week, like sketch comedy, I don't know, like, it's a lot. And she did that for 8 years. And to me, the way that she described it was like, it seemed pretty chaotic, but she was working and living with people that were like very passionate about doing this. So I thought a super cool story. And kind of like a good takeaway from that was like, it was hard work, right? It's hard work, it's chaotic, and she stuck around doing it because she loved doing it. But the other part to that is that, like, when you go through these periods where you're just like working your butt off, it's almost like you don't have maybe in the moment you don't have like a respect for it, because you're like, you just got to do what you got to do. But honestly, being able to do that kind of stuff shapes how you're able to get through different kinds of work. So I can relate to that. I know for me personally, from being before Microsoft, being at a startup company for like 8 years, I know that, like, if I need to grind through something and there's a lot of pressure, like, I don't like that feeling, but I can do it. And it's because, like, I've spent so much of my career doing that I can flip that switch and like go into like high productivity mode. I'm not saying that I recommend that for people. I'm not saying it's like it's the best way. I just know for me, like, that really works. So when it's almost like under all of this pressure, all of a sudden, like, productivity just like skyrockets for me. So I thought that was interesting that she's describing this before she gets into any software development topics. And from there, she starts saying, like, so she's very curious, right? Which I think is a very key software engineering like trait to have. Like, being genuinely curious. She said she likes problem solving and she's curious. Like, those are two things, aside from like being able to communicate effectively, like two things that I think you just need. It's not math skills, it's problem solving and being curious. So she has both these things, and she was telling me that she would like go buy a couple of courses on like almost on like random things and just go learn because she's curious. And she tried coding and was like, I like this, like, this is cool. So anyway, we're going through some of this conversation. She's telling me about her career, and I want to bring it back to some of like the acting and the improv stuff, because she was saying how she was going through this learning process and it was taking her a couple of years. And I think that was a good acknowledgement, because, again, nothing against boot camps. I did not go to a boot camp, but I think a lot of boot camps are structured to be like a little bit predatory. This person needs to figure out how to move lanes here. Come on, buddy. You got your signal on. There's a lot of space. But I feel like, yeah, I say predatory because, like, the marketing tactics, right? Like, we'll do it better, we'll do it faster, and the reality is, like, you can't promise anyone expertise in a short amount of time. It's false. So I feel like there's a lot of that just in the marketing. So she was saying that she was like self-taught, not even kind of like before a lot of boot camps started becoming really popular. So it took her like 2 to 3 years. And my question to her was like, when did you feel comfortable to start, like, I'm going to go get a job as a software developer versus staying at the theater? And she said, I've never felt comfortable, right? Like, it's not, oh, I reached some point. She's saying literally 3 years. I get in the fast lane. Zoom. So, yeah, never felt comfortable. And we were talking about that a little bit more, and she was saying, like, she attributes it to like improv and acting. And she also, I thought this was a really interesting thing that she brought up a couple times, this idea of like having like a child's mind. And like, you know, when you're a kid and you're like make-believing and pretending, like you're just playing, and you're kind of like, you become a character, you do these things. Like we're creative, we have good imaginations, and like we just grow up and all of it goes away. But she was saying to like try and embrace that. So the takeaway from that part was, you know, like I didn't feel comfortable at any point, but she's like, but I just did it anyway. So she explained this opportunity she had where I guess her brother-in-law had kind of was like, hey, look, you're gonna go apply to this place. And she's like, no. And he's like, you're gonna do it. And kind of like, yeah, like what's the worst that's gonna happen? They say no. And like, okay. Like basically the upside is huge and the downside is basically zero. It's low effort, low risk on the downside, and it's only like awesome opportunity on the positive side. So, but yeah, I thought it was cool that she was like, she kind of tapped into this, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, she's kind of used to doing this kind of thing from all of her acting and theater experience, like kind of helping organize and run this theater. So what was the next part I wanted to say? There was that, oh, and then like, so that was like whether or not when did you feel confident? So never. And then the second part, I kind of combined them. Sorry, this is what happens when you're driving. But was this idea of like, what made you take that leap to actually go send in, like, she basically wrote them. She didn't apply for a job. She wrote them and said, I'd like an internship. So like, how did you get over that? And yeah, that was kind of the second part to it. So number one was, she said she didn't have confidence, and she framed it almost like, I still don't, which I thought was interesting. Like, I've never been confident. And then the second part was like taking this leap of faith to be like, you know, what's the worst that's going to happen here? So I wanted to repeat that again, because if you watch the podcast episode, like, you'll see it, you'll hear it. I think it's a key takeaway from that, but I just wanted like another, this is a smaller platform, but a platform to say it. Like, we hold ourselves back so much. I'm absolutely guilty of this. I'm not saying it like look at me doing, like, you know, not having that issue. I 100% have that problem. I wrote about it. One of my last live streams was about that. I am very like guilty of getting complacent at things and just sticking in my comfort zone. And the last thing I wrote about and streamed about was like, that's my biggest fear, is having so much time go by where you're just complacent. It's scary because it sneaks up, right? You get comfortable, and then like years go by. Literally years can go by and you're just comfortable. And then for me, the scary part is going, man, like, what if I would have? And you can't play that game because it's never a fun game to play. What if I would have? It's only downsides. But like, yeah, I don't want to be in a position where I'm like, man, if I would have, then I could have had these different experiences. So if that's a fear of mine, that I don't want to be in that situation, how do I get ahead of it? And the answer is like, there's literally a chair hanging off of the center of the highway. Amazing. I'm going to keep doing stuff like that, by the way. But yeah, we hold ourselves back. And I don't want to be in that position, so we have to get ahead of it. And you have to kind of force yourself to go into these uncomfortable situations. You have to take, like, risks. But, like, are they really risks? You're just putting yourself into a spot that's, like, maybe you have to learn a new skill or work in a new domain. Like, the risk is that you have this uncomfortable feeling. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you're, like, a software engineer or, like, a, you know, related kind of position, right? Like, odds are you're probably pretty smart person. You like problem solving. You're pretty driven. Like, stereotypically, that's like a combination of things, right? Like, doesn't it make sense? Like, we should be doing that. And again, I'm saying that not like I'm good at it. I'm not. I think it's kind of funny that, like, for me to say it out loud, I'm like, yeah, it totally makes sense. Like, why can't I do it then? Why can't I trick myself into it? I gotta move over here. I don't like this part of the highway. This is where I get out of the fast lane and have to move over like 4 lanes. And everyone has the same idea, so you gotta think and not talk. Sorry, you gotta deal with it. But yeah, it's way easier said than done, right? And I've been fortunate that in my career I've had what I call like forcing functions that make me switch or make me be exposed to something new. And every single time, it's like, when I reflect, it's an amazing experience, like, you know, like life-changing, career-changing. And I truly want to find ways to lean into that more. Now, back to Rita, she's definitely an outlier. Like, she says that she believes she's an outlier. I personally think so. I don't have stats on these things to be able to say whether or not that's the case. But truly, I don't think that it's common for people to want to get uncomfortable. But for her, she was saying, like, she almost like needs it. So when she starts getting complacent or comfortable, she's kind of like, okay, well, what's next? Like, how do I get out of my comfort zone? And I would love that. I would love to be in a position where I make myself do that. I don't have that. And I don't know if it's something you can train or convince yourself. I don't want to give up on it. So I'm trying to talk about this more so that I can, like, remind myself, I guess, is how I would say it. So that was the first part of our conversation. I thought, again, it was just super cool to kind of hear her talk through this, because I didn't really think about things this way. No, this guy wants me to pull over. I'm not doing that. Sorry, buddy. I got places to be. Plus, it's on an on-ramp. Like, no, I gotta get up to speed to get on the highway. We're up to speed. The second part that I wanted to highlight from our conversation was this thing that she does when she's trying to get into a new code base or new to a team. And I feel like this is tremendous advice, because I've had a very difficult time articulating this to people, and I don't think I'm going to do a good job of it still, because it's kind of still I don't know, it's still cooking up top here for me to try and figure out how I want to articulate it. But she explained that, like, when she gets into a new code base or something, new project area, she's like, a lot of people seem to, like, get overwhelmed by these things. It's almost like they want to understand all of it right away, and then you can't even take the first step, which I think is true. Like, people are like, it's a lot, like, and then the first thing you do is you're like, well, I don't know how to take the first step. I'll just ask for help, right? And this is the common pattern that she talked about. It, I've observed this and try to coach people around this. But, like, you don't want to just, like, ask for help to get the answer, because that doesn't teach you anything. And I coach not only the people asking the question like this, but also the more senior people on the team, to not give answers that are like, oh, just let me show you the code, let me just do it for you, because that doesn't help long term. And it might sound obvious as I say it, but, like, I want you, next time you're at work and people are asking you for help, or you're asking for help, see if you're doing the thing where you're just looking for an answer, or you're just giving someone an answer, because we do it a lot. So she was explaining that when she gets into a new code base or a new project, she'll try to look for, like, similar patterns, right? So she's kind of building a mental model, which I think is a good thing to do. It makes it more relatable. And then starts writing code, and she's like, I might be working in a spot, and, like, I'll be putting code on the screen, and she's like, it might not even compile or whatever, but, like, just trying to organize her thoughts into how she's going to make this all work. Obviously, this is situational, so, like, the advice that she's giving is not applicable for, like, anything you want to go develop. But she's talking about how she's literally trying to form her algorithms, if you will, right? Like, here's the things I'm going to try to use. And she gets to a point where she's like, okay, like, I've tried a bunch of stuff, it's not working, but cool, like, I at least know my thought process. Then she'll go ask for help. Then she's in a position to say to someone, let me walk you through all the stuff that I've done. Let me explain to you why I did it. Now can you help give me some guidance here? And this, like, this flow, I think is the way, right? And I say that because you force yourself to go through this period of, like, I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. I don't know. By the way, I didn't realize if this was touching me, this mic. Hopefully it's not too noisy with my beard touching it. Does that look good? Yeah, this period of being uncomfortable and, like, I don't know what I'm doing, and, like, trying things out, like, that's where you're learning. That's the spot. I think between failing at things, as in like you're trying it, it's not working, and then you find the solution, failing at things, and then kind of having this like little struggle period, like that's where you learn. And people are always looking for shortcuts, and they're trying to avoid that uncomfortable period of being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to like kind of fumble around through stuff. But like, spoiler alert, literally anyone who is good at developing software has had to do that. That's how they got good at it. It's just how it is. So I told Rita in our interview, I said, I always tell people there's like no shortcut for becoming an expert at something, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the skill is. Software engineering is no different. So there's no shortcut. But I said, if I had to come up with a shortcut, it would be basically like summarizing this experience, right? Of stop looking for a shortcut to avoid these uncomfortable situations, and basically start having those uncomfortable situations, because instead of avoiding the learning opportunities, like you don't realize that's what you're doing is avoiding learning opportunities. Put yourself into the learning opportunities. Jump into them, struggle, learn about it, get better, repeat. Like that's the shortcut, is accepting that you need to be doing that. So I'm almost at the office. I'll get off my soapbox in a second. But yeah, I think that was a huge takeaway. So I think I learned a lot talking with Rita. I'm super excited for that one to go live. The other thing I'll mention, because this was super embarrassing for me, was that we were like, I don't know, like 10 minutes into our call or something, or less. It was like, I tried to make a mental note, like 8 minutes in, all of the power at my house went out. Everything. Everything in my house just went boop offline and then came back on instantly. But that meant that we're recording this podcast, and like, I'm a total stranger to her. She lives in Spain. So it's like between 5 and 6 p.m. for her. It's like 8 to 9 a.m. for me. We're talking for 8 minutes and I just disappear. You can imagine she's probably like, what the heck? What did this guy just con me into doing here? This is so dumb. I'm sure she wasn't thrilled about that, but she stuck around. I'm so thankful, because I thought it was a great conversation in the end. So I'm going to try to park this SUV and sign off here at the same time. Maybe I'll do one of those things at a time. You can watch me park first. So I'll do that at the office here. I'm going to park this X5 in a compact spot, because that's what we do. Every spot here is compact. We'll get that in to there. Perfect. Beautiful. And I think that's it, folks. So yeah, I'm pumped for that. I'll do another one of these on my drive home. Thanks for tuning in. I hope the mic was okay. This is my first test with it, so if it totally sucks, I'll make it better next time. But the next one is going to be equally as bad, volume-wise, audio-wise, if this was bad, or it'll be equally as good if this was good. I have to listen to it once I'm home, and then I'll try to make adjustments. So, sorry, but thanks for tuning in. If you want to check out the podcast stuff, it's on my main channel. If you want to check out my educational stuff, that's also my main channel, Dev Leader. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me. So I'll see you on the flip side.